The long song is published on the 4th of February. More from Celtic Connections now. The latest production by the National Theatre of Scotland, Long Gone Lonesome, is celebrating the life of Thomas Fraser, a fisherman from Shetland who led a double life as one of Scotland's unsung musical heroes. Playwright and musician Duncan MacLean is telling his tale through a playful and emotional performance of storytelling and song.
Way down in my heart deep, the weary blues begin to creep.
Thomas Fraser, fisherman, crofter and improbably talented country bluesman. He only found fame 25 years after his death, when the first album of his recordings was released and his ability was recognised by the Nashville Country Music Hall of Fame. Now, the National Theatre of Scotland have transformed Fraser's remarkable story into a play. Back in November, it found its way to the place he called home, the remote island of Burgh in Shetland.
Melancholy blue.
Thomas Fraser, as remembered by someone who never met him.
I think often in theatre, we strive to find the state of the nation pieces and the big pieces and the big stories. And actually, if you can find the smallest stories that connect out, then you can create a really special experience.
It's not theatre with a capital T that's meant to be studied in books. It's an experience. It's part of life, really. It's theatre as part of life. Almost like somebody collaring you in the pub in Lerwick and saying, God, have you heard about this man, Thomas Fraser? What a life he had, let me tell you about it. And launching into it. It's that kind of theatre.
He was a dramatic, forceful, passionate performer who sang from the heart and won the hearts of his listeners. How do we know this? Because in 1953, electricity arrived in Burgh.
So what gave Thomas Fraser his lifelong obsession with country and blues music? Struck down with polio at a young age, he lay in bed listening to country music playing on the radio. He heard his family and neighbours play traditional fiddle reels, and he got hooked on the Jimmy Rogers records his uncle in the Merchant Navy brought back across the Atlantic.
I saw the light, I saw the light, no more darkness, no more night.
Merchant Navy people sailed the world and brought records into Liverpool or Glasgow and fueled the great music scenes there at certain stages. Merchant Navy folk took 78 records back to Shetland back in the 1930s and so exposed people here to American music a lot earlier than most parts of Britain.
I'm packing my grip for a farewell trip. I'll soon be on my way.
Thomas followed his musical heroes to the guitar, but he was a reluctant public performer who preferred to stay at home recording the country songs he loved on the latest technology, his reel-to-reel tape machine. After his death in '78, his reels were forgotten until 2002, when Thomas's grandson Carl took the trouble to listen to them.
I couldn't believe it, really. I'd heard all these old blues people before, obviously, but here was something like that in my own family. It was a really strange experience, exciting experience.
You know, he was a man who was incredibly talented as a musician and dedicated as a musical artist to what he was doing, but he didn't seek any publicity for himself at all.
Thomas was different. He was driven, he was creative, he was playful in a way that was almost childlike. Not the norm for your average tough Burgh man at all. But in the morning, there were still creels to be baited, fences to be mended, sheep to be sheared, all the 1,001 jobs in the croft that kept Thomas and Phyllis busy, just to keep the family fed.
His friends and family obviously knew that he played and sang. They would quite often send a reel-to-reel tape by post to him with a recorded message or a note on it saying, I wonder if you would record such and such hit. And Thomas would sit down and do the song for them. But because it was they'd sent a whole reel, he would think, well, he might as well not waste the tape. He would basically go about recording music over the whole side.
A song about a cowboy riding across some faraway prairie. And your mind drifts off into that song. And in your daydreams, you're following the cowboy as he's rounding up his cattle. Soon, the distant ranches and the Rocky Mountains are just as real to you as the Vos and Peat Hills outside your croft. Ride, cowboy.
Something that I've been discovering since I've been in Scotland is this link between, you know, fiddle, traditional music, kind of southern music in America, the sort of blues as a sort of working music as well that came out, and then the obsession with cowboys and the whole thing. You know, there are many books to be written on the subject.
No place to call my home.
It's strange about the music. Country music does seem to have there's a strong hold of country music in Shetland and places like the Faroe Islands and Western Scotland. I think it's something to do with the songs. I mean, a lot of the songs describe a hard-working life, difficult conditions, and I think that's very close to what folk are like here.
These were the songs that were telling of everyday life, with work and disappointment and struggle and heartache and the consolations of love or having a good drink now and then. It might have been about rounding up cattle on the prairie, but really that's a very similar life to rounding up the fish in your wee fishing boat, you know.
After his last accident, Thomas was talking to his nephew, Bobby Fraser, and he said to him, I'm going to pay the price this time, Bobby, and when I go, I want you to look after my reels. They never kens, I might be famous someday. And he laughed a quiet laugh at this impossible dream.
The song that really stood out for me when I was thinking about making this show was Somewhere Over the Rainbow, because I think Somewhere Over the Rainbow is a really difficult song and it's really sentimental.
What new interpretation can you possibly bring to such a hackneyed, over-performed song? Well, Thomas takes it and he makes it entirely his own.
Over the rainbow, way up high.
He makes you hear what the song is really about. When you're listening to it, you don't hear Judy Garland or think of the Yellow Brick Road. You know, you think of Thomas sitting on his croft up here in Shetland.
Where meadows mount like lemon drops, away above the cherry tops. That is where you'll find me.
When he sings about his cares drifting far away and being away above the clouds and so on, leaving his cares behind, you think of the tumultuous skies of Shetland, and you realise that one of the reasons he's performing that song is because the imagery makes complete sense to him sitting here.
So why get
There's still time to catch Long Gone Lonesome at the Tron Theatre in Glasgow tomorrow night. Well, the history of India, Pakistan and Bangladesh, as seen through the lens of their photographers, is the subject of a major exhibition at the Whitechapel Gallery in London. It features the work of over 70 artists, and Sarfraz Manzoor went to see what these pictures tell us about political, social and cultural life in the subcontinent.